Okay, tell me how it feels to observe me in green glasses compared to the red glasses. I think I feel like a whole different person. I feel like, you know, it's a different look. It's a different look. I look younger in the green glasses because the red ones are sort of remind me of my mammy in the 70s or something like that they would wear. So I want to do an experiment as to what is a low verbal IQ, because what I'm trying to do when I'm talking on the video camera is spontaneous thought. I'm not preparing anything before I get started on speaking or doing anything, which is how I try to live my life. I jump up, think of an idea, and I do it. And I don't like to write down a bunch of plans or try to rehearse the things that I'm going to say before I get put into the experience, because that does not feel natural. And natural is my goal in everything I do. So if you stood me up on a podium and I did not know what I was going to say, that's the kind of expertise that I would like to be able to do, where I'm kind of placed into situations in which I don't know what's coming, and so I have to respond in a quicker, faster type of thinking circumstance. So watch what it looks like if I try to read off my notes. It's gonna probably have no use of the word However, you might not feel like you're connecting with me as much because I'm reading something or I've rehearsed something. And there's a difference in connecting with people and how that feels, because if you're preparing to do engagement with people, and I know there's not another person who I'm specifically talking with whenever I'm trying to have a conversation, which would make it a lot easier if there was. But if you're trying to prepare to actually emotionally connecting or intellectually engaging with a person, I don't think it's wise to prepare scripts or rehearse what you're going to say before you ever get face to face with that person, because you're going to be so focused on what you've prepared before that moment that you're not leaving enough room for actually engaging with the material that person is going to be presenting back to you. That's the whole difference about over preparing to do any kind of speaking or activity. Natural is my goal. And so if I'm going to be working on doing YouTube videos, let me watch what I do after the fact, and I'll try to consciously change what I'm doing, such as saying so, or or and, or like. It's a habit that I didn't realize I had, because I haven't had anyone to talk with in years. It's been me solo, doing my writing for what? It's over 8 years. Of course, I've been writing for my whole life, but actually, having been in solitude, it's been over 8 years, and been communicating with myself has been a practice, which I make my priority. See, I need one of those. I've seen them before. You click on this clicker, and every time you use one of those words, like, and you keep score, and then the next time you do it, you can see if that number is going down. 1 second, I have to get my fish sticks and hush puppies started in the oven. And then I'm going to read off my phone. I'm just going to let the camera sit here right now so it can be one continuous video. And I would say that I have probably have a fairly high verbal IQ if those are the words that I'm thinking about. I mean, I don't sit around and prepare to write. It's just naturally thoughts that flow out of my head. So, click, click. Anyway, here, let me try. I have decided to take on the challenge of getting better at public speaking skills. I don't know where that's going to lead me. Don't know what all I'm going to talk about. Whatever comes to the top of my head. Today we're going to talk about something I wrote this morning, which struck a chord with me. I do not like it when it feels like somebody else's feelings. I don't even know if it's real feelings or if it's just a game that people play to see if they can make you feel bad. But I do not like it if it feels like anybody is ever trying to impose some kind of guilt upon me, which is, it's not fair, because if a person is giving you anything which they do not want to give you, and then they're making the situation where they give you this gift, provide for you in such a way, and then after the fact they say some comment about being used or freeloading or whatever the case may be as to the way what you're doing with your life, and you know the truth of your history, and then you feel like that you need to get defensive when, if that person is really feeling resentful towards you about helping you or coming to visit you, or doesn't feel like the relationship is true or kind or generous or whatever it is, that person needs to be honest with you instead of making you feel like you've done something wrong and you don't know how to fix that tension in your relationship, where you're feeling guilty about things that you shouldn't have to feel guilty about. Okay? Because if you're doing your best and somebody has offered to give you financial assistance, and I'm talking about myself in this situation. I've done so many things to be prepared for careers. I've got 2 degrees. I study all of the time, even though I have no people to really use that information that I study with. It all goes into my bank up here, and then of course I try really hard to learn how to know everything about construction around my house, and how to trying to get into agriculture and better self-care, counseling, you name it. I've tried to learn how to do all of these things, and whether or not those financial rewards have come through as to where I could use that in a relationship with another person, that opportunity does not exist. There's nothing that I wouldn't do to gain more skills where I could support myself. I'm just not in that situation. So that was what struck a nerve with me whenever I asked my parents to come over and eat with me, because I do care for them, but I do not like to be feeling like I'm put in any kind of situation where it doesn't feel fair. And a lot of times I do not feel like it feels fair if I have written out all of these essays describing my thoughts or my feelings, and it's like, it feels to me like they've taken the position of becoming an actor in one of my essays to play some role instead of just expressing to me their genuine thoughts and concerns, instead of using what I have created as sort of a disguise or something. And that's the way it makes me feel. And I don't want to have to get in arguments and be you know what, ungrateful, because I know that I have a lot of opportunity and should be appreciative of all these things. But on the other hand, I've had to go through a fuckload of things that have been difficult for me, and I would do anything to be in a position where that was the ideal circumstance in my head. And just to think, okay, well, you're provided for and you should be satisfied with that. There is this feeling within myself which wants to be the provider for myself and be able to cut that dependency off so that I don't have to feel like I'm doing something wrong by receiving, provisions or whatever. So that's my take on that situation. And then you get into, well, what would it be an important job for you to do? And there's so many things that I think that would be important jobs, but it boils down to the basics. I think the basics of food, water, and shelter are super important, but you have a lot more that goes into human development than that. And then you don't want to be crossing boundaries with people where you're trying to provide for them in such a way that creates an enabling situation where they're not learning or being able to take care of themselves the way they need to because you're trying to make money. These are areas which I can't wrap my head around it, really, because if you want a strong community, you definitely want people to be strengthening their minds, their bodies, all these other things, and you don't want to create dynamics such as you might have with your childhood home where somebody is cooking for you or are doing your chores or whatever else because they might want to, but that's not good for you because then you don't develop the discipline or the skills or the thoughts to be able to do those things for yourself. These are just things that you learn with time, but that equates to how the economy's run and things like that. So many things that you have to be careful with when the matters become about money. And I don't know how to go over all those things. That's just like me trying to question the fact of what a country is when I think that men have so many ways of discussing women and how their system of operation works, such as, describing a ship or a country or some sort of economic system and drawing up these charts and these graphs which look like it is about a group of people when it's about a specific person and how they're conducting themselves psychologically or physically or whatever it is. And it's in disguise. And when you start to look at these things, that it's like there's nothing. You're like, is there really anything out there where these descriptions fit? Because people can get carried away, and it sounds like they're lost, trying to save these these creations, which are only symbolic structures or scaffolding or whatever you want to call it, that is only meant to help your own human development. And those are things that I don't completely understand. So trying to understand who I am and the things that I can personally do is where my time is best well spent. And so, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and try and read what I wrote here. This is another video which I think I'm talking much more fluently because it's something that I'm passionate about. It's really difficult for me to talk with Rin a lot of times when, I don't, it's almost like I'm conflicted if I even really do know him, and there's this blank space for me to try and engage in a way that, such as we have a relationship together. But there is a lot of things that he does that have brought about thoughts within myself that have helped me immensely to figure out some really good revelations, I guess you would say, as to what is going on in the world that I was confused by. Because, like I said, when I was younger, I didn't have any idea that a lot of things that were said about physical reality were simply a lot of metaphor, and a lot of that metaphor was sexual innuendos and things like that, and you have to really weed through it to try and decipher out what's significant and worth knowing about. Okay, there's a lot of things that I've gone through trying to, pan for gold, as you would say, and it's ridiculous that we have to go through so much to figure out, basic things that should be pretty simple. But I am to the point where I do feel like I'm pretty, I don't know, what would you say? Well put together? Functional? Okay, so, again, here's the one. There he is. Look. And so I started out writing a letter to him, but then I started talking about my parents in this same thing, because the reason I think this came up around the same time was because when I saw my dad, I hadn't seen him in a while, I noticed that his hair was much thinner on the top of his head. I did not say anything about it, but obviously Rin must have known what I was thinking, and he called me out on it by doing this picture, or it was planned before that, or whatever. But I also remembered that he said that male patterned baldness gets more attention for the medical health industry than Lyme disease. I still don't understand any of that stuff, because, like I said, at the beginning of all of that stuff, I thought that he made up Lyme disease and it was a romantic gesture. I didn't understand what he was doing, really, and so it was hard for me to understand about the IVs and all of those things, because I thought it was an artistic representation, but I can't get into verifying the truth of what he was doing. I know the things that had come out of my mouth, which I had talked about, and I think I've already gone over all of these things plenty of times, that I thought Well, what I said was that relationships, um, can make or destroy you and your health and all of those things if you get um, sort of a, you know, obsession with a person that you want to be with, and then it transforms you into either a person that is not such a great person anymore, or a person that's too obsessive and people pleasing, or too hyper, would you call it hyper focused, with wanting to be flawless or beautiful, or even um, coming up with things that where you're weak and you need this man to come be your strong man. Whatever it is, these scenarios that people try to do to rope somebody to stay with them in a relationship, or maybe even that they feel they're lacking in some area of mental capacity or physical capacity, and they think the person of the other gender is going to be able to provide for them in some sort of way. I don't know about all those things, but that's the kind of thing I was describing when I said that it's not always the best thing for your mind to make being in a relationship your priority if that makes you a person that you don't want to be. And how can you be the person that you want to be if you want to be in a relationship, but you also want to respect yourself and you want to respect the other person? What all can you do? And those are the kinds of things that I do for myself here. And I know the clock is ticking and all of these things, but it's that issue with dependency. You don't want to feel the same way as I said that I feel about having to ask for money from my parents when I'm supposed to be an adult. I should have, in my mind, have been able to get a job with all of the education and work I've done throughout my life, because, a job that can support me well enough where, what kind of job could you actually get which you're contributing to society or the community, and you also get to have enough time for yourself and your home, where you're not just working to have a home that you're never at, or you're not just working for other people in such a way that you never get time to yourself to be able to dive into your internal world to know yourself. These are all questions which I don't know the answers to, and I don't quite understand. And it's I don't know if anybody can provide me with these answers, but I hate inadequacy and guilt. Okay, especially when you try so hard so that you're not bothering people. Okay, that's like one of my huge goals in life. Keep away from people. Do not bother them, because if maybe who knows, that's just it. Like, you have to have a mission plan. If you're going to be involved with people, you have to know what they want, to engage in conversation and these kind of things. I don't know, but here is what I wrote, and we're going to see if you can tell the difference between me reading off a screen and just my talking in general. Okay, I'm not going to be trying to do the voice that I felt in my head when I said this. I'm just going to read it. My favorite picture ever! Okay, I might be doing a silly voice. You made my day, sweetheart. See, I feel silly. Thank you. Your eyebrows. Now, Ren's... Okay, I look at these pictures of Ren with different colored hair and how he looks different in so many different pictures that he is taking. And I went through a long time wondering if Harry and Ren were two different people, and I always have to examine the eyebrows, because this bald-headed picture of him, that his eyebrow does something funny, like the way it arches on one side, and so I'm like, oh yeah, that's him. And then he's got this spot on one of the sides. He's got a neck spot, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's him. So those are the kinds of things that I try and identify him, because I've never met him, and I do not know, and it's weird, but anyway. So, do I completely? And I called him father, because I thought he was making a joke about that. But anyway, he did that bald-headed picture after I had noticed that about my dad, and then he called himself Martin, and then started talking about a Toblerone, which my dad's name is Ronnie. And so it's like, I don't know if I understand your sense of humor with candy bars. You're trying to do a comparison between barbells and candy bars and caskets, and the height that you are. Okay. Just a minute. Is my fish sticks already ready? Or are they ready to be put in the oven? No, they're already done. Okay, there's a lot of things that I'm like, does he actually like me? I don't. He certainly does pay attention to a lot of the things that I talk about. Anyway, so let's read it. Do I completely understand your sense of humor? No. A lot of times I think that you are caring about me. I asked if you would shave your head too, you remember? And so I tried to so I shaved my head because I was doing this thing to see if it was some kind of, I was trying to test the reality of what his feelings were by doing these different things to see how he would respond. And beauty was one of those, I guess, tests to see how he would respond to when I shaved my head. So after I did that, I guess I think I sent an email that said, now you shave your head too. And I think he refused to do it. And I can't tell if somebody made this picture or he made this picture, if he really did it. It looks real. But that's the story of that situation, that I was sort of testing the situation to see if I was in some sort of game, I guess. Does Ren Gill really care about me, or is this some sort of game or some sort of school activity, or what exactly is he doing? And I'm very up and down about that, because I'll get to the point where I believe it's totally true, and then I'll not believe it, and I just have to live in that circumstance, because I don't know. I do not know. I have to just get on with my life, but perhaps he'll tell me eventually. I'm not a mind reader to be able to tell what he is feeling or thinking if he is only responding to the kinds of things that I do, or playing dress up to look like me, or whatever else. I don't know, man. So and I used to think that every time he would put like this pan that he was going to be cooking, or whenever I was thinking of how it was difficult for me to hear what he was saying, how it was like he was listening to my thoughts, and then he would go and he would change up what he had made where I could read the lyrics or get a closer look or whatever it was, so that I could get more into it. And those were things which I would have defined as that acts of love, because it's considerate and he wants me to get into what he has made, and that's a good feeling. It is not a good feeling if I'm questioning that. I don't know if it's real. That's not a good feeling. It's not, because of wanting fidelity or commitment or whatever. That's a big issue for me. So I'll continue reading. Was I important to you? Here's what I'm concerned about at the moment. I'm not upset with myself when I think that you could have feelings for me, that you do love me. And I'm not upset with myself when I think it all is a trick and I have to step away and be careful. Neither of those feelings are dishonest, and neither of those feelings are wrong, because I do not know. I do not know unless you tell me what it is that you're trying to achieve with me. Last night I got up to grab some dog food. Let me just take these off because my eyesight's actually really good today. I slipped and fell getting up to feed the dogs, and crushed my kneecap on the floor. And I was like, those kinds of experiences are going to be like, is God trying to get me to stay away from Ren Gill by that happening to me? And it's like, because that's not a normal occurrence. I'm not clumsy at all. Usually I'm surprised at myself how much I can flow through my movement and do so many of the things that I can do. So if something strange occurs, then I usually think something funny is going on. But anyway, so I remembered about what happened in what he discussed in the Cujo video. And I wondered why he had done the demonstration or done the picture with his bald head and what exactly he was trying to say. And immediately I saw the picture of Brigitte pop up, that she was holding the camera when Ren had done the prison videos of the Vincent Van Gogh series, which I've never watched, because that was when I was like, I can't go through the feeling I get to think that there's something between us and then have to watch any girls in the videos with him, because it's not what I want. Okay, I can sit around and do therapy or work on my mental health or read literature that I may think that it's helped, or do DIY things around my house or my gardening or whatever it is that I do. I can do all those things whether or not somebody has loving feelings for me, because I have love within myself. And so to put yourself into a relationship where you're pouring out yourself and your feelings for a person, and it looks like that person is not maybe into you in the way that you're into them, that is not a good feeling to be. It doesn't feel like it's going to build up strength in yourself. It feels like you need to pull back and strengthen yourself in another way, perhaps alone or perhaps with different people that you're not in those types of relationships with. It's just something that I couldn't do. And it took me a lot of bravery to be able to start looking at the videos again. And I still don't know the situation, but I'm going to talk about it, and hopefully I'll get a response about everything that I have mentioned. Because like I said, if you're willing to risk being truthful with somebody, and you're willing to say what exactly is on your mind and what you're concerned about and what you don't like, then relationships have the potential to improve, or relationships can be ended and dissolved, and you can find better circumstances for yourself that are going to be healthier for you and not make you feel terrible. Wanting to have some relationship happen which the other person might not be wanting, and then it to be appearing like that person is flirting with you or really into you and all of these things, that's too much for me to handle. That's too much for me to handle, because I am very fucking sensitive. Okay? I can't be putting myself in something that's going to tear my heart out like that. Okay? I just can't. Okay, I'm not going to read all of these things. So, I thought I did a much better job just spontaneously speaking. So, let's see. I don't want to say anymore, okay? You can read what I wrote on the thing if you want to. I don't want to reiterate it. But the main thing is, here is the outline of what I'm going to do. I want to be natural, okay? That's why I don't wear makeup. That's why I like to wear tennis shoes. I like to... whatever is considered natural behavior. And I did that right before I met Ren Gill. I was trying to get on OkCupid, which is a dating website, and I went like this. I took a picture of myself going like that, and I don't remember the exact story, but the person said, "What are you doing?" And I said something about trying to find gravity. Person said, "Yes, I have issues with gravity myself," and I was like, it's like silly. I mean. And then conversations I try to have with people usually turn out to be weird to me most of the time. Trying to find gravity in conversations that are grounded and purposeful and not like making you feel like you're lost in outer space are very important to me. Very important to me. So anyway, here you go. Whoever wants to get to know me, tell me what you really think, Rin. That's it.